Topic number 4, Mitch.
Yes, sir.
As always, comes from the community over at kindafunny.com/forums, where I posted that you were coming on the show, and they posted a bunch of questions. Speaking of Dota, Gregway. Apology writes in and says, "Hi, Mitch. You get a lot..."
Hi.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Apology.
Hi, Apology.
"You get a lot of heat for loving Dota 2 or MOBAs in general. Various devs have come and gone trying to explain to Greg and others why they should get into the genre. What's your elevator pitch about why you like MOBAs, and what would be a good place to start if someone is curious about jumping in for themselves? Apology. P.S. Best of luck at UB. I mean at whatever you might end up doing next. Smiley emoticon." Apology's one of those guys. He's going to make all the predictions, see if he can
It's funny. It's been really funny watching people guess where I'm going.
How many have you gotten it right?
I think literally one. And not even like a specific.
They didn't like nail it, but you're like, oh, that's close enough.
Yeah. So there's no definitive like, oh, if you want to learn to play MOBAs, play this, because they're all so goddamn different. And that's the thing that people don't understand if they don't play them, is like they'll look the same, with like the exception being like, oh, Smite looks a little different because the camera angle, but it's very similar in a lot of ways, and also very different in many others to a lot of different MOBAs, because they all draw from each other and learn from each other. And Dota 2's most recent updates have been like very heavily inspired by League of Legends. But the elevator pitch, I don't know, for me it's always been like, cool, 5-on-5 competitive cooperative multiplayer games with distinct heroes, each with unique abilities that combine in different ways. That is mechanically why it's great. On a more meta level, the reason I play and love MOBAs is because I get to spend a huge amount of time working together with people I love. Like, I spend a ton of time with my friends playing Dota 2, and it feels good to be like, oh, I'm going to go help Jay, and after that, we're going to route up and we're going to back up Katie, and together we're going to accomplish a thing because we're a good fucking team. And that feels really good. No, in the same way that playing the Division feels good, because you're like, oh, we all, we were there for each other, we revived each other, we covered each other, we had support items for each other. I protected Fran, he protected Ty, he backed me up. Like, that stuff works. And that is the essence of social gaming. And that's why Guild Wars is so good at it. And that's why WoW has been good at it for
ever
13 years, 14 years. If you want to get into MOBAs, I would recommend not starting with Dota 2, but at the same time, starting with Dota 2.
See, the hardest part, I remember distinctive? Oh, God, it's been a long day. Distinctly, when you walked into the office one day and you were like, I started playing Dota 2 last night and it sucks. I hate it. And then it was literally like 2 days later, it came in and was like, after 15 hours, it clicked. And I loved this game.
It was the Far Cry 2 problem, where I played Far Cry 2 and I was like, this game sucks. It's like really hard and unnecessarily punishing and kind of clunky, and there's no fast travel that makes any sense, and it's hard to get around, and this is weird. And then after a certain amount of time of suffering, I was like, oh, fuck, that was the point. Cool, this is that. And now I understand the rules of this game, and I'm playing it differently, and now it's great. With Dota 2, I was like, I hate the writing. I hate the characters are all punny, and they're all stupid, and they all crack jokes all the time. And now, like, I adore that. It is the heart and soul of that game's personality, and I hinge on those jokes. And friends and I will constantly, like, Alexa and I will be talking about something, and I'll just pop out a Dota quote. She's like, what?
Stop it. Stop it. She sprays water in your face. Like, bad Mitch.
Yeah. So, like, and it's just so deeply ingrained in me. Where were we? What was the topic?
We're talking about what MOBAs, where you jump off from, and how you started it, and you hated it.
I hated it. And I played for a few matches, and I had Leah Jackson at IGN was teaching me, and she was very patient and very understanding. And I was like, this is great. I'm learning a lot. I just don't think this is for me at all. And I just kind of kept playing because I felt obligated to. MOBAs is such a massive growing genre that I knew nothing about. And I felt like I need to, as somebody covering games, be aware of everything. Like, I need to be aware of everything.
Yeah.
And the consequence was I stopped caring about literally everything else, because this was amazing. This was the game for me. And I love Dota 2, and it made me love League of Legends. It made me love Smite.
And Infinite Crisis.
Here's the Storm was all right. So I think it just took spending a bunch of time with it and finally playing with friends after I felt competent.
Sure.
Playing with people who could then teach me what I was doing wrong, and then actually pulling something off with a friend where it's like, I used a skill on that guy, which allowed Brian to come in and use a skill on that guy, and then Katie came in and killed him. We did it. That was really good teamwork. And now we have an advantage, and I get to buy a cool item that do more fun stuff. And that escalation really, really, really clicked. But it took literally 25 hours or more, maybe. And it's like, that is not remotely acceptable. Like, that is never, after 50 hours, it's great. Don't just play for 50 hours.
Oh, the Final
fine.
Fantasy 13 theory. Okay.
Exactly. But at the same time, like, if you're going to play MOBAs, I've always said, like, never start with Dota 2 because it's so fucking hard. Start with something, I hate the word simpler because it sounds like a pejorative, but League is simpler in that it's like, it's just more accessible and it makes more sense in a lot of ways to someone playing it. Smite is even more accessible just because it's like, from a perspective, it works. You can play with a controller and it works. The shop stuff is kind of taken care of for you if you want to handle it that way. Heroes of the Storm is a really good entry point for understanding heroes and how they function and how they work together, regardless of the objectives and maps and things that I didn't love in that game.
How's this Paragon shaping up?
I don't know. I've only played a little bit. It seems cool, but I don't know enough about it to speak intelligently about it yet.
Sure. That was the thing. Colin and I were always making fun of MOBAs just because we don't care. I love that you love it. Everybody should love what they love. But that was like the greatest like fucking twist at PSX.
The
when they're
one
like,
more thing.
No. They ahead of time they're like, hey, so we're not doing the playing cards this year. We're doing these collectible cards for every one of the games.
Oh yeah, and Paragon's the most rare.
And one of the developers wants to give you a card for your panel. We're like, oh fuck yeah, who? And they're like, we can't tell you, but are you in? I'm like, yeah, of course we're in. And then afterwards we go up there, like, here are all your Paragon cards. Like, oh fuck, do you know who we are?
Amazing. But at the same time, I started with Dota 2, and because I started with Dota 2 and suffered and learned, and it was the hardest thing I've ever experienced in like learning to play a game. And
sure.
Like the most mentally exhausting thing because it is like an encyclopedic amount of information to have a baseline understanding of how to play a game and be effective. It's crazy. It's so demanding that in doing that, I went to another MOBA and I went to League after like 2 years of not playing. I was like, oh, I feel like a god. Like I feel like I'm really good at League, and I feel really good about how I play Smite because it's probably true the other way around. Like had I started with League, I'd probably transition to Dota and be like, well, this is weird and complicated, but
I get it.
Yeah. And they are very different games that have different demands of the player and different flaws too. Not because it is an imperfect genre across the board, but I love it so much. But I just felt like I was readier for every MOBA that's ever come since, having spent 2,300 hours with Dota.
That makes sense. I would hope that would make you an expert at it, yeah. All right, that's your good elevator pitch.
Only took 9 minutes.
Now this one I like because it takes us back to our roots. George says, hey guys.
Hey George.
What are your hopes for Walking Dead Season 3? And have you started Michonne miniseries? Any thoughts you have? Good luck in your future endeavors, Mitch.
Let's do Michonne first.
Gotcha. I've only done episode 1.
Me too.
Episode 2 dropped while I was on this crazy travel.
Yeah, and I'm not going to play it.
Why?
I thought the first episode was fine at best.
Okay.
I love Michonne. As
Yeah.
a character, she's awesome. I think I've sort of reached capacity with The Walking Dead.
Oh, interesting.
I'm way behind on the comic, which might be great.
Oh, you mean overall as a franchise, Walking Dead?
I definitely don't care about the show. This season sounded great until they were like, tricked you, we're not doing Negan until next year.
Fucking shit out.
Yeah.
Ending. Stupid ending.
But with the games, I've always been like, oh, this is like, some people were down on season 2, and I was like, no, this is awesome. They're still doing really great stuff. Telltale's really clever about how they do stories in this universe, and I feel like Michonne is not. Michonne is not a clever way to do a story in this universe. And that's not to say it's a bad game by any stretch. Like, it is still totally, like, if you like the series, you're probably going to like this.
Yeah.
Fans of the genre. It's fine, and there are some good characters, and there's some good moments, but by and large, I just didn't care about the people she was with, what problems she got into, and what was to come. I think
I'm more up on it. I'm going to beat the next 2 things, but I did end episode 1 and I was like, okay, whatever. I haven't. It's not the Telltale Walking Dead where I think about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you and I don't think would have had a great
we wouldn't have sat in a meeting
to-
room with 45 minutes and been like, oh my god, what did you do?
Exactly, because it's not that. But what I find super interesting about it is that, you know, in Walking Dead 1 and 2. I sat there, and if I'm playing as Lee, if I'm playing as Clem a bit different with the second time around, but she's my Clem, and I'm making her mine.
Yeah.
Whereas with Michonne,
She's defined.
a character I know so well. I was using the silence option left and right. Like I'm like,
Oh, man,
Michonne
yeah.
wouldn't respond to this.
Totally.
Michonne wouldn't do this. She's not gonna talk about this bitch who she doesn't know, and da 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 da. And like, there's that, and then also which I like. That's the part I like.
Yeah.
But I remember coming into this and it being where are you in the comics roughly ballpark?
Minor spoilers. They just let Negan out of prison.
Okay, good. So when they announced this and being a comic nerd and they're like, it's going to fill in the gap in time and all this different stuff,
And
I was like,
that arc is awesome.
and I was like, holy shit, how are they going to explain that? And then you pick up the game, you're like, holy shit, they're not.
Oh, it's completely fucking unrelated.
This is just happening in that gap of time.
Yes.
But it's like, as a reader, and even let's say that as you, maybe an outside fan who doesn't understand that's happening, what does that give you in terms of stakes, in terms of caring, in terms of motivation?
I think that's my big problem, is the context for this game is not interesting.
Yeah.
Whereas the context for Lee's story and Clem's story were fascinating.
Yeah.
And I think that Lee and Clem both had a vulnerability to them that Michonne does not. So I'm never afraid for her.
And that's the other thing too, is like, since we know where this falls in the timeline, it's like, well, we know, it's like Glenn in season 1. It's like, well, he's going to get out of here. I don't have to worry about Glenn being in trouble. You know what I mean?
And even if it's like, if any of these characters die around her, like, and anybody who did die, I was like, I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I just
nothing.
thought it was dumb. Like, that person should not have died. There was no purpose for that other than to be shocking.
And that's the thing, is like, it's a 400 days, right? It's like this interstitial. It's something that's here that, we're trying out new things with the engine.
Yeah.
They're doing new things. And that's great. Cool.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
It just didn't click with me in the same way that 400 Days did. Like,
Sure.
I love 400 Days.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'll get back to it. I'm going to play them, but it's a great example of like, until this question, I kind of forgotten that episode
Me
2
too.
was out.
And
like,
to our earlier conversation, like, it's a game that is fine and is enjoyed by a lot of people I know and love and respect and whatever, but it just doesn't feel important or necessary to me.
Sure.
Like, it's like, okay, that's fine. It's a good game, but I'm just going to do other stuff.
So what about season 3 then?
I don't know. Like, it's obviously happening. I don't know what I would want from it, because what we wanted from season 2 was so clearly a Clementine story. Like, we all, like, you and I talked about this, like, season 2 is Clem, season 2 is Clem, let us be Clem. And they did. And now, like, I really loved season 2, and its endings were so potentially different that for them to pick up anywhere after that, it's either one of two things has to happen. Is it has to be a different story about a different person.
Yeah.
It cannot be about these characters. And I would love to see them do new characters. Or I wanted to do something that Walking Dead has never really done and flash forward like 10, 20 years and be like older, way more badass Clementine.
Yeah.
Leading her own troop. This is the person she's become in the wake of Lee and Kenny and Luke and all these other people.
Yeah.
So
I would love that too, because my concern is, like what you're saying, is that the endings were so different, but I feel like there's a way that even if, and this is spoilers for Walking Dead season 2, but you shouldn't, even if your game ended where mine did, my real playthrough, which is Clem with the kid walking into the horde, painted up like she's just, fuck it, I'm over it and I'm a badass and I can do this. You could still easily have it be that she still makes it to the Virginia town, which name currently escapes me. But
yeah.
you know what I'm talking about, this Wellington, right? No.
Yeah, no, I think that's right.
Okay, well, she makes it to the Wellington, which still doesn't sound right.
But then it's like, well, is it with or without certain people?
Sure. But I mean, there's always a way to explain around that, right?
Yeah.
Like, you could even just be that you don't talk about it. Then that'd be
Totally.
weird, because I don't think they're going to do the whole, like, get your save back and bring this shit
Yeah, and
up.
it would be, I don't know, it might even be weird for her to be like, hey, remember Kenny? And you're like, why are you talking about
Yeah,
this?
why would you bring this guy up that, like, things ended badly for my last group. You know what I mean? Because
Yes.
that's it. Because
vague, yeah.
she got inside by herself, well, with the baby, but by herself regardless, right?
Yes.
Like, that doesn't matter. That part doesn't matter. So there's ways around it or whatever.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they do. I'm more excited for everything else Telltale's
I was going to
doing.
say, what about Batman?
Yeah, Batman's the one, man.
Batman sounds awesome.
They have a Marvel project I'm excited to learn more about, too. They have their original IP, which I'm excited to learn more about. They've been quiet on that for like 2 years.
Yeah.
All right, I really want a Wolf Among Us sequel.
You're not going to get that crap.
I know. Probably not going to get another Borderlands either.
Which is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But it is and it isn't.
I mean, it was
Tales from the Borderlands,
perfect.
awesome.
As is.
Play
Yeah.
Tales from the Borderlands
So
if you didn't.
great.
I forget what award it was up for recently. It didn't win, and I was like,
Yeah.
no fucking way.
And we're
not a
recommending,
game of
like,
the year.
I don't care about that franchise.
100%.
I've never cared about, like, I reviewed the first Borderlands and I was like, this is a great RPG.
Yeah.
I don't find the world or characters that interesting and some things were frustrating. Borderlands 2, I was like, Handsome Jack's great. I'm kind of over the loot grinding, shoot and loot system. It's fine. I had a good time playing with Clements, but really miserable time playing alone. But fucking Tales from the Borderlands is so good.
That was the thing about Tales from the Borderlands. When it got announced, I was like, I like Borderlands, but I was the same way. Of like,
I just
I don't
ignored
play
it
Borderlands
entirely.
for the world.
Totally.
Yeah.
Somebody told me, oh, they announced a Telltale Borderlands. I'm like, what?
What?
Why? And I saw the first demo and was like, this is fine.
Yeah.
But it really took playing the first episode to go like,
Holy
man, they have
shit.
brought some character to this world
Yeah.
in a way that even the full 40+ hour RPGs couldn't.
I always talk about it. Like, I had it on my XMB for like a week and a half or whatever, and finally, I was in one of those moods. I was cranky and I was playing. Nothing was hitting it, and I popped out. I was like, Well, I got 2 hours before bed. I can knock this out and see what it's about. In like 5 minutes and you're laughing out loud. I'm like, holy shit, this just turned my day around. And like these characters and the intros that they did, like the music and stuff. I was like, holy shit, this game's amazing.
Yeah. Love Tales from Borderlands.
So there you go. That's what we think of Walking Dead Season 3. Play Tales from the Borderlands. All right.
Next.
Crease16 says, hey, Greg and Mitch.
Hey.
Long time, first time. My question is for Mitch. What is your absolute favorite gaming memory? I know it's hard to pick one. For me, it was the 6th grade, staying up till 7 a.m. playing Elder Scrolls Oblivion with my older brother for 15 hours straight. We haven't had an experience like that since, and it just holds a special place in my heart. So what is yours, Mitchie D? Thanks, Crease16.
I want to cheat. I have a couple. I rented Suikoden 2 from a video store back when.
Those existed.
Yeah. And a friend and I were like, oh, this RPG is really cool. Like, we're not really into JRPGs, but this one has like a really fascinating story, and we like the characters, and the drama is actually really interesting. And we just never got to finish it. And we rented it again and started over, rented it, and then we just did this over and over. Like, fuck, what was it about? I remember loving it. I remember this character. And eventually we're like, you know what? Fuck this. We're going to rent it. We're going to play through it this weekend if it kills us. And we played through all of Suikoden 2 in like 72 hours. We played about 60.
Jesus.
It was like nonstop. It was gross. And we must have been like 16 or something.
Yeah.
And I loved it because it was like, it's my favorite JRPG ever. Like, equal to or greater than Persona 4 for me.
Okay.
Scandalous.
Yeah, I know.
And I adore that story, and it has stuck with me so profoundly because I experienced it that way. And we just, we did the thing where we hand off and on, off and on.
Yep.
And, like, that game had dialogue choices that I don't know really if they amounted to anything, but it meant a lot to us to be like, man, I cannot fucking believe you picked that. I cannot believe you stayed silent during that moment. Like, that kind of stuff was really interesting to play with a friend.
100%.
Another really good one is I organized this recreational Dota 2 tournament, and it was like life sucking because it was so much to worry about, like organizing 80 players across like 16 teams and getting their schedules aligned. And it was a nightmare of just getting it to work. But man, like once we were in it and I was watching these games and like casting my first ever Dota game while watching my 10 friends play against each other in a match that like was super competitive and really fun and friendly, like that brought my love of Dota 2 to another level, because at that point it's like, oh, this is a game I like a lot. I'd love to get a bunch of people together to play it who really love it like I do. But for it to become something that like was as well loved as it was between all those people, it was like, okay, holy shit, like we made a thing that
was cool. Even as an
meaningful.
outsider who didn't understand Dota 2, and doesn't understand Dota 2.
And it was so
but like watching all those people, everyone on Twitter talk about it.
And
Like,
it's
damn,
like,
this
here's
is
the
cool.
Square Enix Montreal team playing against the Telltale guys, or Giant Bomb is playing against whoever. Like having those sort of associations with every team. It's like, oh, this is IGN, this is 2K. And it was just awesome to see, like, it was people in the games industry, but it wasn't about the games industry. And it wasn't people like straight up like, we're repping 2K. It's just like, oh, here's like a bunch of people from 2K.
This is like how we are assembled.
It was just so fucking fun to see that and see people get really excited about like, who are these guys? Oh, that's cool. Okay, cool. And they had like a frame of reference for people they didn't know playing against people they did.
Very nice. Final question for you, Mitchie D.
Yeah.
On this episode of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Chase.
Hi, Chase.
If you could choose any studio or individual to head up an ActRaiser reboot, who would it be and why? What advice would you give them to make a proper reimagining fit for modern audiences? Been listening to you since your first episode of Unlock. Thanks for the thought-provoking perspectives and your infectious attitude towards games.
Why, thank you.
He speaks for all of us.
Oh. There is no studio I would give that game to, because if I could give the rights to anybody, I would give them to me. I would do despicable things to get those rights from Square. I have a design doc in my Google Drive right now for what my ActRaiser game would be. Got a different name.
You can actually do this now. You're getting into games. You're going to make it. Maybe this is the game you're going to make.
Yeah, 20 years from now when I go indie, I'll make this game.
There you go.
Yeah, man, I fucking love ActRaiser, and I'm really bummed out that ActRaiser 2 what it was. And now I've just got like so many cool ideas that I have no idea how to execute on in any way, but I have cool ideas for what a new ActRaiser like game would be. And I just have this stupid design doc of like random dumb ideas and what might work and what might not, and what if we could try this. But I really love that series because it marries like 2D action platforming with God Sim stuff. And it on a Super Nintendo, like they just didn't have the technology to make it really a simulation. Whereas now you could do really fucking interesting stuff with the way people behave based on what a god does to them and the kind of rules that god might impose on them or not. And then how those cultures might affect other cultures in a perimeter.
Sure.
Like there's really interesting stuff you could do that nobody's ever done. And so ActRaiser and Bushido Blade, why is nobody just remade and stolen these games?
Because sometimes games are too good and they can't be redone. Why aren't all the wrestling games just No Mercy again?
Yeah, they keep trying to do all this other shit that doesn't...
Oh, make it a sim wrestling. Fuck off. Nobody wants that. We want the cool shit.
I want to get a baseball bat from under the stage and knock a man out.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want it to look weird when I do it.
I want to rip Sting's fake face off and...
Well, I don't know if that ever happened. I don't know we're ripping faces off.
Yeah, it'd be... you remember if anybody was like a Rey Mysterio and you got behind him and did like the head choke? If you did it enough, you'd rip their mask off.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant the flesh off their face.
No, it was the same thing where Sting's makeup would be gone.
Okay. That'll give you. Okay, that's fine. That was the best.
Very strange.
A lot of people overthink the video games. Now that you go to indie games, don't overthink them.
Yeah.
Just make them good.
Yeah.
Just make them cool.
Yeah. No, I always used to think like, oh, it'd be really great to give the God part to Sid Meier and the action game part to like Tomonobu Itagaki.
Yeah, that'd be
and like
definitely
weird
awesome
shit
matchup.
like that used to excite me. Now I'm like, no, just give it to me. I'll hire some people, give me a studio, give me some money.
It's that easy, Square. He's all set. He's making games now. It's that easy. He knows so much.
I love that goddamn game so much.
I love you.
I love you.
Goddamn much, Mitchie D.
Oh,
ladies and gentlemen, this has been the first ever episode 65 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast, the first ever one-on-one Mitch and Greg podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey as we talk to our good friend Mitch. Remember, the Kind of Funny Gamescast posts early over on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. You can go there, pick it up, but if you have no bucks to toss our way, head over to youtube.com/kindoffunnygames where we post it topic by topic, day by day, until the entire thing posts for free the following Friday as an MP3 and video. Mitch, I can't wait to find out what you do next, because there's no way you would have told me.
No.
I'm going to miss you, though.
I keep all my secrets. I'll see you in 65 weeks.
65 weeks, we got to get that back. Somebody...
remind us.
Apologies. Somebody like week 57, let me know. So I can get the plane
Start
tickets
planning
booked.
it. Yeah, we'll figure out a visit because you'll be fucking rolling in money by then. You
of
can
course.
afford to fly me out. It'll be great.
Exactly. We'll just make it a Patreon tier goal.
Perfect.
Okay. Mitch, I love you.
Love you.
I want to miss you.
I'll miss you too, man.
All right.
For real.
The weird hugs. Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.